Gaebe and Triangolo were an extraordinary team.
The two men were always doing something at the school.
Well, I think the real story here is the foresight that my dad had to see the need for a university like Johnson & Wales.
Mo Gaebe had more energy than any man I'd ever met.
He knew and believed in what he was doing and just allowed everybody to get on his coattails and ride with him.
Their idea was that this would be a school that really knew no bounds. In November of 1947, I had just graduated from Harvard Business School, and I'm walking down Union Street, and at the end of Union Street, there on the first floor was a small restaurant with a counter, and there were two gentlemen sitting there. Not many, it wasn't busy, and I walked in and sat next to them. And that was my first contact with Mose Gaebe and Eddie Triangolo. And the question they asked is, what are you doing? I said, I'm not doing anything. I just graduated from Harvard Business School. I said, what are you doing? I said, oh, we just bought a school. Oh, I said, that's real interesting. They said, would you like to teach? I said, no, I don't really want to teach. They said, well, why don't you come and teach for 5 years and then you can do what you want? I said, that's an awful long time. I don't want to be committed for 5 years. How about 4? Well, we got it down to 3. And I said, okay, I'll teach for 3 years. So I went back and saw my mother now. She said, what are you going to do? I said, Mom, I'm going to teach. She said, at Brown? I said, no. PC? I said, no. She said, where? I said, Johnson, Wales. And the first thing out of her mouth was, my God, do you know how small that school is? I said, no, I met 2 men that I'm impressed with. They're entrepreneurs. They believe in the same thing I believe in, so I want to teach there. For a while. Said, how much are they going to pay you? I said, I don't think they have any money to pay me. I said, but I'll live home, and that will take care of it. And that was how I joined the faculty of one of the smallest schools in 1947 in Rhode Island.
As I hear the story, Eddie Triangolo called Dad and said that there was an opportunity to buy a small business secretarial school in Providence, Rhode Island. Would Dad be interested in going in a partnership? And Dad moved to Rhode Island to get the thing up and running, and then he would call for the rest of the family when things were going smoothly.
When we first met Eddie and Vilma, we were just immediately close friends. And of course, I think I've always said with Mose, any phone call I get from him might be a surprise. It certainly was a sense of adventure. But when you're doing it with people you like and you respect and you trust, there isn't any fear involved. It's more adventure than anything.
Everything we did was risky and scary. We bought Johnson & Wales for $25,000. Audrey's mother and Vilma's mother put up $12,500 each. So there was a big risk in those days, but you look at it today, it wasn't a risk at all, you know. It was been foolish not to have done that.
When we bought the school, there were about, just under 100 students, that's all. And I said to my husband, you don't know anything about running a school. And you know the crack they always make. He said, engineers can do anything. So that was the beginning. We did everything. We taught, we kept the office going, we ran errands, we emptied waste paper baskets. The boys at night after the classes were over built typewriter tables. They had iron legs and put plyboard on them. That's because we needed more. And we just pitched in wherever we were needed.
Wow, without my mother, the school probably wouldn't be here as it is today. She went to Johnson & Wales, and then she worked for Miss Johnson and Miss Wales after she graduated. And they were so impressed with her, or they liked her so much, that when they got ready to retire, they wanted the school to continue. They asked if she and my dad would be interested in buying the school. So in that regard, she was the driving force that got him to buy the school and call his buddy Mo Gaebe from Illinois to come and join him in the business.
I think Eddie, who was a Brown graduate, brought Dad out here because he saw that Dad was a nonstop worker. He never clocked in and he never clocked out. And I think Eddie saw that as an asset to have as a partner who would work that hard. Dad, on the other hand, whole goal in life was to play professional baseball. And he wanted to play for the Cardinals. And that was his dream in life. But he got drafted by the Cardinals in 1942, but he also got drafted into the military, and he didn't really have a choice. By the time he got out of the military, he had 2 kids, so he just couldn't pursue that dream. And that's when Eddie was able to get him out here.
It was just one of those things. This was a good idea at the time, and didn't know what we were going to do. I didn't ever know what I'd do in education, but I can sell it pretty good. I was a pretty good teacher, and I enjoyed doing it.
Well, I think the real story here is the foresight that my dad had to see the need for a college, a university like Johnson & Wales. Johnson & Wales takes the kid who isn't going to go to Brown, Harvard, or Yale and gives him a chance for a college education, gives him an opportunity to go into a field where he's going to get a career and be able to support himself and his family, throughout his life. I think that's the real difference here, okay? And that's something that he saw back in the early days that a lot of people didn't see.
In 1947 was the end of the war, of course, when the United States emerged as a superpower. And I think that rubbed off on all of us. We thought that we could do anything we wanted to do. And people like Morris Gaebe and Ed Triangolo, they had been through a war, they had seen so many different things, they had a lot of ambition. The GI Bill, of course, made all the difference in the world. It brought a different kind of student in. And Morris Gaebe and Ed Triangolo, they made it obvious to so many of these veterans coming back that you could do it. You could, well, I have to work full time. Well, okay, we'll have night courses. Well, I have to work nights. Well, okay, we'll have, weekend courses or whatever it would be. And they tailored the school really for the needs of the students.
Well, they struggled because, first of all, they were teaching veterans and you didn't get your money right away. So there was a cash flow problem. Secondly, it was not that lucrative. One day I was teaching and Tri came to the classroom and said, "Luke, when you're through class, come in and talk to me. Talk to us." I went in. I didn't know what the subject matter was going to be. When I got in there, they said, "We noticed that you're using a lot of chalk. And we're on a budget." I said, "But Tri, Mose, I'm an accounting instructor. I teach from writing on the board. I got figures all over the place. And that's where the chalk is going."
Gaebe and Triangolo were an extraordinary team. Mo Gaebe in particular was an incredible entrepreneur. And he created so many unique things at Johnson & Wales. And when I talk about the new Johnson & Wales, the trimester system, the 4-day week, the upside-down curriculum, those are all Mo Gaebe creations. When Mo Gaebe liked something, he found a reason to make it happen. Ed Triangolo was one of a kind. His nickname was Fair Eddie. Many times I would go in with a problem of the day, with a solution that I was recommending, and he would say, "Is it fair to everybody?" Dr. Gaebe said he was his conscience. Dr. Gaebe used to say, "If Eddie says we can do this, we can do it." And they were a great balance in that regard. Mo Gaebe was the entrepreneur. There wasn't any idea that he didn't like, that he didn't think was great, that he couldn't figure out how to get it done. Ed Triangolo was a gentleman, you know, the strong, quiet kind of person. He resonated confidence. He was inclusive. You could talk to him. He would listen. He would process, and would find a way that you could feel your fingerprints on a decision.
He was very good in math and science, and he approached life like you would a math problem. Define it and solve it.
Triangolo was a great manager. He's a typical engineer. If you build a house, you don't build it to withstand a rainstorm. You build it to withstand a hurricane. And if you build a school, you build it on the same integrity. You don't build it for the quick dollar that you're going to move on. You're going to build it so that it will have a good anchor. And I think that's Tri. Tri was the man who was putting the anchor in. And Mose was the idea man. Mose was out selling.
Well, we were making progress. We were making some money and started taking salary out. And we bought a home and a car and began to live like other people did. But the two men were always doing something at the school. Mo sometimes would be traveling around, and then Tri would stay put and handle what was going on at home base.
When I came in 1962, Johnson & Wales bought its first building, Plantations Hall, which, and I remember Ed Triangolo taking me around and saying, my God, I don't know if we made too big a decision, will we ever fill this building? And it was an exciting time.
I'll never forget when Tri came home and said, we're buying the Plantation Club. I had a lump in my stomach. I couldn't eat for a week, and I kept thinking, what an undertaking that is. You know, are we going to really sink? I worried about it, but it was one of the best things we ever did, and started to grow from there.
We never had any serious problems. And if we did, they attacked them full blast and took care of it. The only thing that we lived through that I had any problems were we had a strike. And that was a different episode.
In 1968, we had some labor strife, and that was the opportunity to kind of redefine Johnson & Wales and began the new modern era of Johnson & Wales.
There was this clash. It was a time when teachers were having an awfully hard time organizing. I think the fear was that if the unions come in, now there are going to be all kinds of restrictions, there are going to be things that they cannot do, and they just didn't want it.
I think up until that point, we had kind of just grown. We really needed a reaffirmation of what was important. We needed a redetermination of what our core values were, et cetera. And the university did that. We went backwards for a little while in 1968, but we have reaffirmed all the things that were really important to Johnson & Wales. And Triangolo and Gaebe took a really active role in reestablishing the new Johnson & Wales with these new core values. And they modeled loyalty, hard work, inclusion. Everyone was part of the team. There wasn't superior and inferior kind of work. Everything was important. If something needed to be done, they were rolling up their sleeves and modeling the behavior that, you know, we all followed.
Put together, they became a tornado. And that is, I'm getting chills when I'm talking about it. That was it. Gaebe had his feet on the ground. He had that vision. And Tri had the other part to go with it. And that made him a big, big force in education.
They were very talented, very intelligent. very ambitious, and far-seeking too. They could see the whole picture. I don't think they ever realized that Johnson & Wales would ever be as huge as it was today, but I think they realized it could be a lot more than a simple secretarial school.
We went from a school of business to a junior college to a college and then to a university over the period of time. And he did that according to the accreditation program. We just kept building on all of these different things, you know, even out to branch campuses and all the rest of it. All those came one at a time.
I came to Johnson & Wales in 1962, and shortly thereafter, in early 1963, Johnson & Wales became a nonprofit institution and has been nonprofit for the whole 40-some years that I've been here. Occasionally, people still think Johnson & Wales is a proprietary school, and that's probably because of the solid budgeting and a whole host of things that comes from that historical background. Johnson & Wales distinguishes itself in higher education with its practical orientation and applied work reference. As a matter of fact, we began co-op programs first in the retail and fashion program, and we found out that the experiences weren't as great and weren't as varied or as controlled. So Mo said, let's start our own store. And we'll have the students buy, sell, do all the promotions, the markups, and go to New York, see the fashion scene, et cetera. And that led to hotels, restaurants, and today even a horse farm, where students can get to apply the skills that they're learning in the classroom.
There was one thing that was most outstanding about Dr. Gaebe. Every week or two, he would go to Washington, D.C., and he would look up the numbers in the labor market that this country would need for the future. And he would come back to the university and start programs for those in that category. He was a genius. Genius.
Yeah, there's nothing he wouldn't do, and he was very creative, do things that nobody else would even think about doing.
He would contact the local photographer who took senior class pictures and would get the names from the photographer and the names and addresses of the students that whose pictures had been taken, and use that as a mailing list.
Then I could either correspond with them directly, or I could go to the high school and talk to the principal and so forth. And then we made door-to-door solicitations. If I knew that you lived in such and such a house and you were a high school senior, I would go to the house and I'd say, hi, I'm from Johnson & Wales University, and I'd like to talk to you about coming to our school. And I remember one time in Pawtucket, I knocked on the door and I said that, and the young lady came to the door. I said that, and she said, Mom, there's a guy here wants to talk to me about going to Johnson & Wales. And she said, let him come in. And when we went in, she was at the kitchen washing dishes. So I picked up a towel and dried them. And then we went in the living room and I registered her.
Mo Gaebe saw uses and opportunities in everything. Our physical facilities. Oh my God, for so many years, Johnson & Wales bought abandoned buildings, brought new life into them. Mo saw things that other people, really, really didn't see.
It was always crunch time in July and August. The question always around campus was, how many beds are we short? Well, probably the '78 Olympics at Lake Placid had just terminated, and there was a lot of surplus bedding and things like that available to purchase. I don't know how, where, or who thought of it, but Gaebe jumped right on it and sent, one of his staff people up to Lake Placid and ended up buying several hundred beds. That took care of this year's growth program.
He's a workaholic. He was totally dedicated his life to Johnson & Wales. He's a fatheraholic too, if there's such a word. He was my Cub Scout leader. He was my Sunday school teacher. He was my Boy Scout leader. He was my Little League coach. He was my Babe Ruth coach. And he spent huge amount of time with his kids. Huge amount of time. We were all Eagle Scouts. Very rare to have 4 boys in the same family, Eagle Scouts. We all played third base for Barrington High School. We all quarterbacked for Barrington High School. We all had 13 years of perfect attendance at church. But we all lived through that regiment.
I would say that the greatest thing that I learned from him is integrity. He has a philosophy that if you do the right thing, you'll always come out okay. And if you do the wrong thing, that it'll eventually come back and hurt you. That's the message that just keeps coming back, coming back, coming back. So, and I've tried to impart that to my 2 kids because he's convinced me.
That was Dr. Gaebe. Work hard, play hard, get a good dividend.
Dr. Gaebe always had his eyes and ears open to what was going on, and in particular, he used to say, you know, people would ask him, what's Johnson & Wales going to be like 5 years from now? And he would say, I don't know, 5 years from now, wherever the jobs are, that's what Johnson & Wales will be doing. We're going to move fast, we're going to change, and we're going to mirror the marketplace. One day, Dr. David Friedman, who's a current trustee of Johnson & Wales, came in to Dr. Gaebe's office and told him about culinary education and how what was generally considered to be a domestic trade had become a profession, and the leisure time was going to change the world. People were going to eat away from home, big times, there were going to be big, big jobs, and as soon as Dr. Gaebe heard the word jobs, he went and did research on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and he believed it. And we went to the trustees with a recommendation to add culinary arts at Johnson & Wales, and the trustees turned us down. I'll never forget those days. The meeting went late into the evening, and one by one the trustees began to peel away and say, you know, this just doesn't make sense for a business school to be considering culinary arts. And Dr. Gaebe never got discouraged. We went back several months later with an improved presentation, answering all the questions and objections that the trustees had, and the rest is history.
It was 1973 that the big transition came from a business concept, which we were, to the food industry. And that was the shot in the arm that sent Johnson & Wales to the moon.
Culinary arts today is the image of Johnson & Wales. We are world-class, world-renowned, and the largest culinary educator. It is like every multi-branded kind of organization. There are the aspects of the organization that kind of lead the brand. And if Johnson & Wales has a brand, if you asked 100 people that you met, what is Johnson & Wales? Tell me what about Johnson & Wales. An overwhelming number of people would say, oh, that's the culinary school.
Today, our students come from every state in the nation, and the last count I heard in excess of 70 foreign countries. Number something in excess of 13,000 students at all of our campuses, and undergraduate enrollment in Rhode Island is probably something on the order of 7,000 students.
I can't remember whether it was Mose or Tribe. Probably it was Mose said, in order for us to succeed, the student must come first.
And I will never forget leaving this building with Mo Gaebe, and we were going to a very important closing on purchasing of another building. And I wasn't supposed to do anything. It was so important. He had to do it all. And I was just going to listen. It was going to be learning exercise for me. We're walking out of this building right here, and there was a young lady sitting right where I'm sitting here. He noticed right away she was crying. He looked at her and said, "Are you a student?" She said, "Yes." He said to me, "Jack, you go take care of that issue. I'll go take care of this student, and he took her upstairs. And there is the example of Mo Gaebe modeling the behavior that students are important.
Students back in the junior college days, if they ever had a problem with their residence hall or their class schedule or parking tickets, whatever the case may be, they always seemed to be able to find a way to Dr. Gaebe's office. And he would always seem to be in the middle of things and trying to solve the student's problem.
Look at that, those are all our students. You're so lucky to go to Johnson & Wales.
He doesn't take himself too seriously. He has a great sense of humor and enjoys a good time.
You're a freshman?
Yeah.
Well, you got a long way to go, kid. I hope I'm around to shake her hand at graduation. Let's see. This is one of my good luck charms.
Oh. Aw. It's a turtle. It's cute.
Long life and good health and good luck.
Well, thank you very much.
You know, Tri's no longer here, and Mo is well up in age, but he's here. He's here every single day, and I think he's like the Pied Piper.
Where are you from?
You know, that bunny rabbit that never runs down.
The best way to describe Johnson Wales is the ball is always in the air, and you better be prepared to catch it, because it's fast moving.
You know, it's always been my opinion that Johnson Wales was one of the key players in getting Providence back to where it is today.
In many ways, Providence is Johnson & Wales. We're an urban educator, so we're downtown in the city, and that's part of the early fabric of Johnson & Wales, that we wanted to be where the jobs were.
You see that wonderful university, what it is today on Weybosset Street. I think a lot of people are proud of it.
Triangolo and Gaebe made so many contributions to Johnson & Wales.
He didn't want any recognition. He didn't look for it. He just looked to do the job that he had to do, and he did it.
I think Johnson Wales was a huge gamble, and I think he'd do it again tomorrow. He'd roll the dice with everything he has right now.
You know, we want to educate as many people as we can, because education is to change people's lives. And if you're changing people's lives for the better, then you're doing something that you can feel good about.